Hi everyone, welcome to Learning at Saltley.
Welcome to this podcast, which is going to be about updates on exams and remote learning. Clearly this is something that's been on the mind of everybody so far, with all the different things that have been unfolding in the media with the government since the announcement on Wednesday. And with me here today I have Miss Wilson and Mr. White, so thank you for joining me both. What we really need to, I think, discuss in this bit is, how have things been unfolding? What do we know? What are we waiting for? And then followed on with, what is the message for students now? So if I could come over to you, Miss Wilson, to start with, what do we know at the moment in schools? Because this situation is unfolding in Parliament from what I know as we speak, isn't it?
It is. So we know currently that schools are going to be closed to most students from now until February half term at least. We know that we are open, school is open to key worker and vulnerable children. So that's if your parent falls under the critical worker category, or if you're vulnerable, which could be a host of reasons. You might have a social worker, but also you might not be able to access your learning properly online.
There is a list, isn't there, on the government? The government have updated, haven't they, their website, and I think parents and students can go on that to have a look at these categories, because there's quite a vast list.
For the critical worker, yes, there is.
Workers.
I think that, there certainly was in the last lockdown, so I'm assuming that list still stands.
I've seen the critical worker list, and it is there, and it covers a large variety of jobs that are key to
keeping the country running
during this time. Yes.
Yeah.
So if we
I know that. So in terms of what equates to vulnerable as well, I know that the Secretary of State for Education, Gavin Williamson, is going to be talking in Parliament this afternoon about exams, which I'll come on to in a minute. And I think in his speech today, he's going to outline as well what vulnerable means. So which students we should be expecting to come into school. So we'll have more information on that then. We know that school is closed to most students at the moment. We know that most exams are going to be cancelled for the summer this year for Year 11 students, or any students. So that will include Year 10 who are sitting there in English literature. However, we're waiting to hear from Gavin Williamson whether it does actually mean all exams, because there is some talk in the media at the moment about whether English and maths exams will still go ahead. And what they will look like, that's something we don't know. We also don't know how we will give grades, or how Year 11s will receive grades for all the subjects they have been studying so far. I would strongly advise all Year 11 students to be accessing their learning as normal, remotely on Teams, because we will be doing some assessments when students return, because there's no way that we have enough information from all of our students on their performance in different subjects to be able to contribute to awarding a grade.
That's great. You talk about the remote learning there. Mr. White, can you just share with us how the schools got the remote and what the expectation is around remote learning for students to be logging on daily during the next period, where we've got 6 weeks of potential this situation where we're in a lockdown, and students need to be accessing that. So
well, first of all, we're in an awful lot better position during this lockdown than we were in the original one. In the original one, it was fair to say that we were not prepared in any way, shape or form for remote education. However, now every student in this school has access to MS Teams. And through MS Teams we can deliver a combination of live lessons, where the teacher is actively live and the children are live in that lesson for that hour. We can add in resources of pre-recorded lessons that have assignments attached to it, or key pieces of work, or reading attached to it, and we can give links to other videos and other resources that support education. We can even be directing towards the TV programmes that are going to complement education that the BBC announced yesterday, that are going to be on daily as well, and we can be planning ahead for that. And ultimately what will happen is then every child, as they open up their calendar in MS Teams, will see their daily timetable there for them. And that will be really clear and a combination of a live lesson or work that they can be getting on with at a time that is perhaps more convenient to them. And realistically for us then, this lockdown is different because there is an expectation then that no child should miss out if they cannot access a device. So we were discussing earlier that the school is open to key worker and vulnerable pupils, and we're expecting a bit more information on that. But I think essentially it's leading us down the line that if you cannot access that education at home, then the school will be open for you to access that education in school. And we will simply be able to open up computer rooms, open up our resources, keep class sizes down to perhaps below 15 students in a class, offer the mass testing that we can do, that instant testing, create really safe spaces, but we can keep our education going with these restrictions in place so that no child will miss out. And going back to what Ms Wilson said, that for year 11s and year 10s, in fact any student, we don't know what the grades are going to look like yet, but if I asked you, Mrs Odia, your teacher assessed grade is going to be made up of not just one assessment, is it?
Oh, absolutely. I think there's an array of things there, isn't there, Mr White? Of things like the tests that we've done in class, how the students have been working in class, what their attitude was like towards their learning in class as well. So there's a mixture of things there that will contribute to what a teacher would put down as their teacher assessment grade as well.
Because we know if students understand something, don't we, Miss Wilson? If you're teaching a language lesson and you ask a question and a student's response in a lesson, that's informing your judgment on their level of understanding, isn't it, at all times?
Absolutely, it's crucial. And that's why it's crucial for year 11 to be accessing their lessons on Teams and submitting their assignments when they've been set by the teachers, because we are having an ongoing evaluation of the progress every student is making in each subject, which is important.
So any student that doesn't engage in that process
is
put
to their detriment. Yes,
it's absolutely to their detriment. And however we assess their grades, the best way to sort of guarantee any accurate assessment is to engage in every single lesson every single day, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think I've just gone and done a lesson with my year 11s, and the uptake, they all turned up, there were some questions there, and that was an absolutely correct attitude for the students to have. So, that would be something that I would expect all the students to have. And also, I think with the work not necessarily being on Show My Homework this time around, everybody needs to log on to Teams to check whether it's a live lesson or whether it's a lesson that they're learning remotely, for which the resources are going to be there. Are there any other ways that students can contact perhaps their teachers or the school if they're missing something? What's the best way for them to do that?
I think again, through Teams that operates through Microsoft Outlook, we've now got the global email addresses, so any student should feel free to email any teacher at any time. Something that I'm hoping to develop as well is a bit like a live chat, where there'll be somebody available on a Teams call throughout all day if they're uncertain where their work is.
That's excellent.
We've got lots of ideas about how we're going to develop things this time round. But of course the school is open, so any parent can pick up the phone and there is somebody in school who can answer questions immediately, or again contact a teacher for them. Just because we are not in school, it doesn't mean that we're not working. We are just working remotely, some in school, some at home. So no child should feel like they can't access something or don't know what to do, and they shouldn't feel that they don't know who to ask. They should be pressing us for that information really, really quickly.
So the message out there, I suppose, is that although we might not be there physically with you, you are able to contact us in a variety of forms. Miss Wilson, were you going to?
Yeah, I was just on the subject of emails, just going to say that I had some emails from some year 11 students wondering about what they should be doing, in regards to their exams being cancelled in the summer. And of course, we haven't mentioned so far that the IT exam that they were going to sit on Monday has now been cancelled, because in terms of student safety, we feel like the best thing is for students not to go ahead and sit that exam. But so in terms of what year 11 should be doing is they should be carrying on with their revision as normal, because like we said, assessments are still going to have to take place. So everyone should be carrying on as normal until we get a bit more clarity on what it is that we're going to be using to give to help to give students their grades in this summer.
So when you say assessments though, Ms Wilson, what do you mean? Because assessments don't have to just be exams, do they?
No, so we're waiting to hear. So, for example, there is a lot of talk on the media of different people have got different ideas about what's going to happen, what's Ofqual are going to come up with. They're saying that it's not going to be a repeat of last year, so it's not just going to be based on teacher judgment. It can't just be that. So, which floats the question: well, are we going to have some kind of controlled assessment?
So, just to stop you then. So. Just two things that you just said there really quickly then. So last lockdown, it was March, and the Year 11s had been in school from Year 7 through.
Yep.
So we missed a few months, but a large proportion of that work was done, wasn't it? Which enabled us teachers to actually give really solid and accurate reflective grades on where we thought the students were.
Yeah, and obviously
what's different now then? Well,
we'd obviously then just had mock exams. We had January mock exams. That the Year 11 students had sat, so that gave us a lot of information, didn't we, along with all the assessments we had from the whole of their Key Stage 4 to be able to give them a grade. Currently, Year 11 students will know themselves they missed a large chunk, a term, essentially, of their Year 10. So that's huge. Then, since then, we've been in and out of school in the autumn term. You know, some students have attended more school because it's been different for different students, isolating, being in contact with someone being in close contact with someone that's had coronavirus and so on. So actually, and the mock exams that we ran were a really good piece of work and really useful information both for students and for teachers, but obviously it wasn't the case for every student. We don't have enough information for every student on their performance, and obviously if we were in normal times, there would be a massive amount of time of learning and formative assessment going on between then and the actual exams in the summer. Now we're in a whole new situation again where the schools are now closed.
So when you said controlled assessment, what does that actually mean? If I was a student and I hear you say that, what does that mean to me?
So controlled assessment, I suppose, for our current students, the closest thing that you do to that at the moment is what you might be doing in IT lessons. It's something that has to take place in school. It's a specific task that you are allowed only a certain amount of guidance from your teachers on, and it has to be done in school and supervised by staff. So it's not an exam as such, because it takes place over a period of time, and it isn't a set time on a set day like an exam would be. But it's
like art students,
like a window.
For example.
Yes.
They would sit and have a number of hours to produce a piece of work.
Yes, exactly that. So it might be a number of hours, and so if you were not able to attend school on one day, you've still got the teachers recorded that, and they know that you still need another hour to do your controlled assessment or whatever it is. So it's tracked like that. So obviously those kind of tasks are tasks that are not confidential like an exam. Obviously when you sit there on that day, that's the title of the exam and that's it, and everybody's in the same position. With controlled assessment, the title of the controlled assessment and the task is not so confidential, is it? Because you're going to school and doing it on this day, and then the next day, and then you're going home and talking to other people, and then coming back and carrying on with it. So it's a different type of task, isn't it?
So, Mr. Sodi, if you were in sort of the exam writing board now, these controlled assessments don't exist, but what would you write them on? What topics would you write them on, do you think?
I think that's again, with students being in and out of school, not every single student has really followed the same level of content unless they've been engaging with the work remotely and, logging into their hybrid lesson or catching up with the work. So they may not even covered similar topics. So I think that would be something that, if I was in government right now, I would probably be planning to see what topics can we assess them on now, give it to the teachers so that the teachers can deliver that remotely, to then think about how can we assess this in a controlled and fair way. But I think again that's a difficult one to do, because even at home there might be students who haven't had a chance to access that learning because of coronavirus, or they've been poorly. So again, it's a mixed bag there. But as teachers, I think we know there are a variety of ways to assess students. And one of them which is always key and has quite a big weighting, is teacher assessment of how, we know our students and we know what they're capable of doing, and then the other assessments are there as add-ons to support that or not. So I think that's something for the government at the moment, as Miss Wilson said, to discuss and decide before they can put that forward to us. But we would certainly want to know, I think, as teachers, and I'm sure the students would want to know what the topics are for their exams.
So if I'm a student listening to this now, though, my only course of action is to engage in the topics that the teachers are delivering now.
Oh, absolutely.
Otherwise, you're only going to be at a disadvantage, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the topics that are happening now, because I'm sure, hopefully there'll be some sort of consultation, I'd imagine, where we feed back to say what the topics we've covered are, or topics we've missed are as well, so that then that can inform decisions happening in government. But again, we're waiting from Ofqual and the government to decide on things like that before we can make those decisions. But the key thing, I think, simple message out there to the students is engage with the learning right now so that you don't miss out on anything. I'm just coming up to the end of time now, so just as a summary, Mr. White, do you want to sort of summarise what the key message is out to our students and what we want them to do?
I think from my stance, the key message is this. We've been able to give out over 350 laptops since the last lockdown, in hope that the vast majority of students either have their own devices or are now borrowing one and can work from home. And that is the guidance. If you can work from home, you should. However, if any students are out there now that cannot work from home and cannot have that level playing field at home because they don't have some of those resources, they should be contacting us and exploring whether or not they should be in school. That would be my one take-home message. Ms. Wilson, what would be yours, do you think?
Engage in your remote learning. Attend the lessons, do the work provided, and contact the teacher if you cannot find the work that you're meant to be doing.
Thank you both for the update on this, and the message out there to students is please listen to this, take on the advice so that you don't miss out on any of the opportunities that are available to you. Thank you.